Hello and welcome back to the OTB channel. So this week I've spent a little bit of time going back over the last 12 months to try and find out which distro you guys want me to review next. And I was quite surprised that one of the distros that kept cropping up again and again was a Debian-based distro, Debian testing, called Parrot OS, which is a security and privacy-based distro. So, not exactly my area, but I thought, why not? Let's have a look. See you after the intro. Okay, welcome back. So Parrot OS. It's not a distro I've reviewed before, and there's a reason for that. And the main one is, I'm a desktop Linux user. I am not a security professional, and as far as privacy is concerned, well, yes, I mean, privacy is a concern of everybody out there. None of us likes being tracked and having all of our data spread all over the web. But like most people, I suppose I haven't taken a lot of notice of privacy per se. I've run an operating system, and as long as it's got a firewall on it and I'm taking appropriate precautions, I haven't worried that much. And you do tend to think of these privacy-based distros as the domain of the tinfoil hat brigade. Wrong, I know, because they do have a very definite place within the Linux ecostructure, especially for security professionals and those who are interested in doing penetration testing. So I was a little bit surprised when I went back and I looked, and it's been recommended again and again and again. And the first thing I thought to myself is, well, am I the right person to do this review? And certainly the answer is no, if you want to know all the details of exactly what you can do with all the different security tools. But as a desktop user, my question, I suppose, was, is Parrot OS, despite all its specialities, is it also appropriate as a desktop Linux user for your ordinary desktop user? And that's the only way I could proceed with this, really, because I don't have the skills or expertise to go through all the various tools. Nevertheless, I do find this area quite interesting, and I know that the two security-based distros out there, you always hear about Kali Linux, or Kali Linux, and Parrot seems to be almost like a competitor to Kali Linux. So, I don't know, let's go and have a look at the website and see what we think. Let's switch to the combined screen. So, here we are at the Parrot OS website, parrotsec.org. And as they say here, Parrot OS, the flagship product of Parrot Security, is a GNU Linux distribution based on Debian. It's a rolling release. It's based on the Debian testing branch. And it's designed with security and privacy in mind. And it includes a full portable laboratory for all kinds of cybersecurity operations, whether that be penetration testing, digital cybersecurity, forensics, reverse engineering, or product development. Okay, so all good. I think one of the things that everybody will think of when they look at something like this is, but could it be used for less ethical reasons as well? Well, of course it could, but you could say that about everything. The point is, this comes with tools for security professionals and perhaps students who want to develop careers in cybersecurity to learn how to do it. But it's not only for that, it's for people who want to lock down their systems and make them secure as possible. So, yeah, let's bear that in mind. What are its main features? Well, it's secure, always updated, comes with all sorts of sandboxing options, all about keeping your system under control. It is, of course, free, it's lightweight, it's portable and universal, and it's designed to work on as many devices as possible, including the likes of Docker. Okay, all great. And its main features there are security, so a complete arsenal of tools that can be deployed on all your devices and in the cloud, real focus on privacy, on software development, on learning, so many resources to learn from in order to make your skill set stronger. It's got a strong community. I was just reading the paragraph under here. A vast community of experts who want to know you and help you in your cybersecurity journey. That sounds a bit creepy in some ways, but yeah, I know what they mean. And it's a resilient and distributed infrastructure with dedicated CDNs, blah, 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 blah. And it's designed to give access to software and information, even to people in totalitarian regimes or poor countries where stable internet connections is not an option. Okay, so yeah, all good. It sounds right from the word go a little bit over the top as far as I'm concerned, because I wouldn't even know where to start with something like this. But let's have a look at the system requirements. They do two versions. They do something called Parrot Home, which is essentially a Debian testing distro without the huge gamut of security applications built in, although it does have some privacy applications. And then their flagship is Parrot Security, which has, well, it's the Swiss Army knife of security and privacy tools. They do a net install, and they recommend, as far as hardware is concerned, well, for the standard one, recommended hardcore, a quad-core processor, 8 gig of RAM, and 128 gig SSD. That seems quite excessive, but we do have minimum requirements here, and the home version is 2 gig of RAM and 20 gig of hard drive space, and the security version, dual-core processor, 2 gig of RAM again, and 40 gig of hard drive space. Okay, so they recommend a lot more, but they're essentially saying you can get away with less. Okay, good. What about the security tools? Well, a lot of the tools looking through this, I've never heard of. But I found this article on linuxhint.com, which talked about the top 20 tools that are built into the distro. Let's just get rid of this advert that's cropping up at the bottom of my browser. You can't see it because I've cropped it a little bit. But we have Tor, OnionShare, AnonSurf, which is a little GUI where you can change your IP automatically, and it ensures that all communication goes over Tor, so you don't need an extra browser or anything like that, although the Tor browser is actually built into this. What else do we have? I2P, another way of anonymizing your network. You have Bitcoin wallets, the Electrum Bitcoin wallet, Kayak, right, which is a tool for automotive penetration testing. That's not something I've ever heard anything about. EtherApe, which is a GTK-based network sniffer and network analyzer. The GNU Privacy Assistant. Ricochet, which I believe is an instant messaging client that goes over the Tor network. Nmap, which I've obviously heard about. Nick2, a tool to identify common security loopholes in web servers. SQL Map, Crunch, Cup. Well, the list goes on. It really does. There is an awful lot built into this distro. So I'm looking at the release notes here for Parrot 410, which is what I've downloaded. And they tell you how to upgrade, what's new. They tell you a little bit about Anon Surf. I have to say, just looking at this page, I quite like the look and feel of the distro. Anon Surf, by the way, comes up in a little GUI, and if you want to change your IP, you just click a button and it does it in one. So, yeah, all very interesting. Well, look, we can look at a web page forever, and there's an awful lot on here. What I was particularly interested in was a link to the documentation, and it seems to me that it's pretty good. They have a getting started guide, which is all good. You know, how to use it on Docker, Cubes, VirtualBox, how to boot it, how to install it. Because you can run it as a virtual machine, or you can run it in Docker, or you can install it on your hard drive. What else have we got? If I go to the documentation, using Parrot. Okay, so lots of instructions there for what we're going to need, including stuff like AppArmor and FireJail. All good. So I think any sort of documentation where it goes through the bits and pieces that you're going to know is great. And there are links on the website also to the community and the forums, etc., etc. So what about actually downloading it? Well, if we go back to the main page and we go to the download link, you've got a number of options here. I believe Mate is the default, and you can download that in a couple of versions. You can either download the Mate, I'm going to say Mate, I'm going to stick on Mate today. You can download Mate, the Home Edition, which comes without the security tools, and that's 1.8 gigs, which, okay, a little bit larger than the norm, but it's not excessive. And you can download it by torrent or direct download from a server. I actually downloaded Parrot OS from torrent, and it was pretty quick. You can download the home version in KDE as well, or you can download it as a virtual machine image. As well as that, Mate, KDE, we've got the Parrot security version. This is the full download with all of the tools included. And I must admit, I thought to myself, what am I going to download? Because Parrot Security, the full version, is going to be more than I know how to use. So should I just download Home? And I thought, well, no. Download Parrot Security so I can at least show you very briefly the sort of tools that the distro has in it. Although personally, if I was going to install this as a standard desktop Linux system, I would probably just go for the home version. That's pretty big though. Where's the Mate version of that? Yeah, it's just under 4 gigs. So it's a bit of a monster. And then of course, you can download Docker versions. So I downloaded the security version. I've gone for the standard Mate desktop. I'm going to probably flick them back and forwards between Mate and Mate today. I've got to retrain my brain to call it Mate. And let's fire it up and let's see what we think. I'm not going to go through the installation because it's a pretty similar to every other installation you've seen. It's a next process. I can tell you that it all worked well. When I relaunched it in VirtualBox, I got full HD. It all just seemed to work out of the box. Let's go and have a look, see what we think. Okay, so you should see in front of you now the screen that I get on Parrot OS as soon as I log in. And you can see there that there's a dialog popped up straight away asking me if I want to check for updates. In this case, I'm going to select no because I did a full update on this system yesterday. I have to say, it took quite a while. I think the standard tool for updating your system uses the apt-get full upgrade method, as we're running on a rolling release. So what would I say to start off with? Well, it's Mate. It's a traditional Mate desktop, and so that has a key point as far as I'm concerned in its favour. And I really like the wallpaper. It's quite striking. You get the impression almost that if you're using some sort of security-based OS that's for a specific use, it might not look pretty, but hey, this looks pretty. Before we start, let's just check HTOP and see where we get to. I'm presuming that's installed, and yes, it is. And it's showing up here in a virtual machine as 539, 540 megs. Okay, it's not the lightest that I've seen Mate running. I'm going to try and say Mate today. It's not the lightest that I've seen Mate running, but it's not terrible. It really isn't. Let's open up our terminal and just have a look at how much space it's actually used. And I can see it's used 15 gigs for the installation, which is pretty heavy. Having said that, I've downloaded the security version, which comes with a huge amount of tools. So, okay. Now, I've downloaded the security version simply so that I can show you the sorts of tools that it has installed without going into any sort of explanation of what they all do. That would take hours because this has got so many tools built into it, it's untrue. And right from the word go, I know very little about what the security industry uses. So I'm going to review this very much like a normal Mate desktop, a normal distro, and I shall point out what else is there. So let's start off by going through the menu. Oh, by the way, we seem to have two menus here. We have the standard GNOME 2-like interface, which I'm sure you're all familiar with if you've used Mate. It's really hard to stop saying Mate. It becomes something you're used to. And then on the bottom panel, it actually has the Brisk menu. I'm not sure about the purpose of needing two menus. What I would probably do if I was installing this for myself would be to replace this top menu with the Brisk menu and get rid of this bottom panel altogether. But that's just a case of personal preference. So let's have a look at what we've got. Needless to say, this is all about privacy. And the very first section on the menu is privacy. And we have this application there called a non-serve, which I've played with. And it allows you to change your IP and surf anonymously at the push of a button, to be honest. I have checked it. You know, I've changed my IP a few times, and it's put me in Amsterdam in one time, and in New York at another time, and in France at another time. So it seems to work, and it's very easy to use. We then have a section on cryptography, where, I mean, I've got to say that a lot of these apps I've never heard of. Viewing and editing symmetrically encrypted text, the GNU Privacy Assistant, a front end to all of those different cryptography tools, graphical front end for Zulu Crypt, graphical front end for... Look, I have no idea what these different things do. But I'm presuming that if you're going to install a distro like this, you're either going to know what these do or you want to learn what these things do. We then have a metadata cleaner and a secure file deleter. Useful. Then we go into a standard menu, and you can see you have LibreOffice there, which is great. Onto Internet, well, you've got more tools and applications built into this distro than you would tend to see on a standard distro. So you've got Chromium there, you've got a Bitcoin wallet, a client for matrix.org, again, don't know. You've got Firefox, you've got a tool for managing your Firefox profile, a phishing campaign toolkit, you've got the Links browser or the Links 2 browser, and then you've got such things as Onion Share, where you can share a file securely over the Tor network. You've got Ricochet instant messaging, which I believe again uses the Tor network for anonymously interacting with people. You've got Ramina, so that's a remote desktop client. You've got Qubit Torrent, SSL, SSH, VNC viewer, and of course you've got the Tor browser. So I've just clicked on the Tor browser. When you first click on this, it will install the Tor browser for you, and it takes a little while, but as you can see, it's working. Okay, great. So let's just shut that down. Coming down to graphics, you've got IOVMate, and you've got the GIMP installed by default, which is great. Some sound and video tools, VLC, Brasero, Cheese, the MPV media player, and a desktop screen recorder, Voco Screen NG. I've seen that a couple of times now. I've not tried it myself, but I think it's quite popular. You've got a chess game installed. I'm going to miss this pen testing menu for the time being. And then if you go on to programming, well, you've got quite a few things. Something called Chirp. Program amateur radios. Okay. dbeaver, which is a universal database manager and SQL client. Genie, of course. A Git GUI, Git Cola. Git DAG visualizer, no idea. Meld, how to compare and meld your files. A SQLite database browser. VS Codium, which I believe is basically VS Code. And a simple API documentation browser. Do you know, just looking through this menu, I'm sort of feeling that this wouldn't be the distro for me, simply because a lot of these things I've never heard of. And so it would be a waste of time for me to use it. That would be my feeling. That's not to say if you use these things already, well, it may be great because everything comes pre-installed. Let's go down to the System Tools menu. So you've got BleachBit right at the top there. Karjar, the file browser for Mate. Check for updates, dconf, DVD disaster, error protection for CD and DVD media. Okay. Input method, GDebi, Gparted, GUI manager, a fast forensic imager. Okay. Hardware tools, HTOP, a log viewer, and some of your standard Mate tools, along with Midnight Commander, Termit, a lightweight terminal emulator, and UXTerm. And then in accessories, okay, so you've got your archive manager there, Midnight Commander editor, and NeoVim and Vim, as well as Redshift, Pluma, etc., etc. And some universal access tools. Now, the one menu that I've not looked at so far is this penetration testing menu, or the pen testing menu. And if you download the home version, I believe that these tools are not included. So this menu and this category of software is really for people who are security professionals or interested in learning all about the security industry and working as a cybersecurity expert. I'm not saying it's for amateurs, but I mean, I'm just looking through this category of applications here, and it's clear to me that I really have no idea what most of these are. So I'm feeling a little bit out of my depth. So all I'm going to do is just give you a quick look at the categories, most used tools, information gathering, and of course it goes on into multiple tools. It splits into a tree, vulnerability analysis, web application analysis. Well, you can see yourself, maintaining access, post-exploitation, passwords, wireless testing. I'm just looking at the wireless testing there. Wow. RFID, Bluetooth, as well as the standard 802.11, software-defined radio, everything you could pretty much want. Aha, I see a tool there that I'm actually familiar with, Wireshark. We used to use that for, is it TCP dumps, the developers where I used to work for a DNS company? But there's all sorts there, network sniffers. Digital forensics tools, wow. Automotive tools as well. Reverse engineering tools and reporting tools. And you also have this option here to start and stop services automatically. So they're using the NGINX server. I'm not sure if that's installed by default, but these are the tools to start, stop, and restart it. Also, you've got the ability to start, stop, and restart SSH. My understanding is that by default, none of the system tools are activated with Parrot OS, so you would control them from here. Look, for those of you in the security industry or learning about the security industry, this really is a Swiss Army knife of tools. If I was going to use this as a personal desktop, I would pretty much guarantee that I would download the home version, because these are not things that I'm going to use. But I do understand that if you have a particular need for a security-based distro, these might be gold dust. So, okay, all good. Let's have a quick look at the distro itself from a desktop user's point of view. You have some little widgets up here. So the first one looks at your processor. The next one looks at your memory. And the last one, I presume that's going to be network use. If we can just get that. Yeah, that's network use. What about wallpapers? I know it seems strange. I'm looking at a security based distro, and we're looking at something like wallpaper, but people might be interested in such things. And I have to say, you've got quite a nice selection there. And the one thing I can see right from the start is these are not just the standard Mate wallpapers. Let's have a bit of a play. So we've got this one at the moment, which is obviously the Parrot. Another version of a Parrot. I quite like that. Quite clean. What about that? It's quite striking. I got to say that I like it, really. What about that? We have another Parrot. And... okay. So, not a bad selection of tools. That's a little bit too purple for my mind. I think I quite like that one, actually. Right, so it's a good-looking distro. Yes, it's created for a purpose, and if you want to become, or you already are, a cybersecurity expert, or you're interested in maintaining your privacy and ensuring that you have a system that's locked down as tight as possible, Parrot OS may be something that you want to look at. as far as a standard desktop operating system is concerned, could it be used as your ordinary Linux distro? I don't see any reason why not. But at the same time, what I would say is if you're not interested in all the special tools that are bundled with this, would you install it? Well, let's go and have a chat about that. Okay, so that's Parrot OS. What are my thoughts? Well, as a desktop, as a Debian-based desktop, just looking at the distro in terms of what were my first impressions, I like the look and feel of it. So I'll say that right from the word go. However, I also felt a little bit overwhelmed. I think you can do so much with it, and for me personally, it would be wasted. If I just wanted a Debian testing distro, well, I would probably go for something like Sparky, to be honest, which would suit my needs. But if privacy is a primary concern, I think it's an excellent distro to have a look at. Certainly, like everything in the world, it can be used for nefarious purposes as well as for ethical purposes. And I think that's not down to the distro, that's down to the person that's using it. And all of the tools that are on it are available to anybody anyway. So if it's something that interests you and you'd like to give it a go and you want to explore some of the tools, and perhaps you're a professional in the IT industry and you make use of the tools all the time, I think the distro could be really useful. Okay, that's all I've got to say about it. I've got nothing bad to say about it, but for me, as a standard desktop user, would it suit me? No, probably not. And for most people who don't have a real interest in that side of things, you're probably better off sticking with Arch or straightforward Debian or something like Sparky. So guys, something a little bit different. The first live stream happened on last Sunday, and I got the feeling it went quite well. I will be doing more. I'm not quite sure how often, every 2 or 3 weeks perhaps. And some people said it would be better because of the time zone and so on to do it on a Saturday. And perhaps I'll do a swap next time and I'll do it on a Saturday and do the pre-recorded video on the Sunday instead. Either or. But we'll sort something out. One of the things that I wanted to ask you though, doing a live stream is great, but I'm not comfortable just kind of going live, opening up the chat window and hoping that we have something to talk about. I can talk for England and I can ramble on, but I think it's better if you have a subject that you can hang a video on or hang a stream on. So I wanted to, in your comments please, to ask for suggestions. A particular theme I can hang a live stream on. I don't think a review or a tutorial are appropriate things for a live stream. It needs to be a little bit more flexible. Something like an Ask Me Anything stream. And you give me the questions before the stream so that I can at least think about what my answers will be. Anyway, I'd appreciate any comments that you have. So guys, thank you so much for coming to watch the video. Hope you enjoyed it. I'd like to say please come and see me on Library. That seems to be getting a lot bigger these days. I know I have a lot of people who watch my videos on Library. Join us on my Facebook group. I'm sticking to that. I'm not going to open up other social media forms of interaction. I think the Facebook group is enough and it seems to work well. It's very friendly. And of course, last but not least, I would like to thank my Patreons for their support. Thank you guys, it's been great. And here, of course, I'm talking about Devon, Corbinian, Robert, Gary, Aristoteles, Stormpix, Stephen, Mike Long, David, Entropy UK, Richard, Ty, Philip SB, Forrest, Scott and Patrick. My goodness, there's a lot of you. Thank you guys, your support is really appreciated. And as far as all the rest of you are concerned, well, I'll see you next week. Have a great weekend.